in terms of the rand, what are your views on the rand right now? Because been chatting to a lot of currency analysts, and there seem to be quite divergent views. On the one hand, you've got Absa Capital, rand bulls looking at rand strength going forward, and of course you heard Standard Bank looking at depreciation, steady depreciation in the rand.
My view is that the rand will stay in a range of between 720 and 780 for this year. I know Standard Bank has a fairly bearish view, and part of that view is based on the fact that government's deficit is going to expand and they will need to go into the markets, borrow more money, and that will effectively weaken the rand. But then you mentioned earlier that tax revenues are certainly ahead of expectations, and I think that will be the offset with regards to government deficit going forward.
Ashraf, 722, what did you say, 722, 780, something like that?
Absolutely.
We had Tebogo saying 820 by the third, fourth quarter, I think it was, of 2012, the Standard Bank house view. If it went to 820 again, what stocks would you pick? I mean, let's say you are slightly bearish on the rand. Would it be the ones that you mentioned earlier on, particularly Sasol, because Sasol has this incredible gearing to the rand? Is the rand a factor there?
Absolutely. I mean, Sasol would certainly be one of my first top picks. And I'd also, and I know you used to like these, Lindsay, I like the gold shares when the rand pops out. But it has to be a sharp move in the rand, and it won't last for too long. That's really a trading view.
You like the gold shares when the rand pops out. Let's have a quick view on the gold sector. We had a big discussion on it on Friday. It's very hard to find a gold bull right now, but from trading perspective, it is easy to make some money if you get the timing right. Would you be coming in and playing in this space at all right now?
Not right now. It's a very difficult space. I think that the physical price at 1667 is attractive, and I think given the political tensions around the world right now, you could see the price at 1750 in a very short space of time. So I'd certainly buy the physical gold, but the gold shares, there's so many other factors driving them that I wouldn't take that risk.
Ashraf, you mentioned that I used to like gold shares. I'm one of those old dinosaurs that now fill these graveyards throughout South Africa that have been bullish of gold shares for so long, and they've never ever come to the party. You've had this brief spiky action occasionally, but as I say, the graveyard is full. But on the other hand, when you get all this bearish news about gold and about the fact that the run is over, it's had a 10, 11-year run, and also when you hear things like I did this morning that the S&P has beaten gold by its best margin since 1999, maybe it's time to start revisiting again.
Lindsay, you know, my biggest concern for South African gold shares right now is the fact that the high labor costs, the amount of ore that you're getting out per ton is a lot lower than it was 10 years ago, and of course the high electricity costs. So all of that certainly hurts the margins for the gold miners. And I'm struggling to see how those margins can expand aggressively in a period of 18 months.
Yeah. Well, talking about difficult spaces to operate in, and you touched on political tensions as well. We've got MTN in the spotlight in a very big way. That share price coming under pressure this morning yet again. And of course, that after we had Turkcell filing lawsuit against it. What do you make of that entire story that's evolving there?
Well, as Sam said earlier, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think there is certainly fire. But when one looks at historically transactions done at government level, there's certainly a lot of quid pro quo that happens, and this transaction would have happened at a government level, so I don't think one can discount that aspect of it. But also South Africa has been supplying nuclear material to Iran since the mid-70s, and with the blessing of the United States. So I find that very, very strange for it now to come up as an issue, because the reality is that, yes, South Africa has been a supplier to Iran, just as they have been purchasers of Iranian oil. And
Turkcell obviously lost out on the opportunity to get into Iran via this contract. So obviously hurt by that. But it's 10% of MTN's revenues, and MTN makes a lot of money from Nigeria as well, a lot of other markets. So for some, though, this could be an entry point, down 3.25% this morning, 130 Rand. Could it break below 130 Rand?
I think there's going to be downward pressure on the price for the near future, and if you asked me would I hold the share for the month of April, I'd say no. I'm happy to wait until next month, look at it, reevaluate the situation, and then make my decision.
Ashraf, before we let you go, a quick look at Telkom. I mean, we saw that share price also under pressure, and that after its trading update saying that full year headline earnings per share likely drop by at least 25%. Can Telkom catch up even with the kind of write-offs it's been taking on its balance sheet and then investments it's been making in the cellular space?
I think it's going to struggle to catch up because it's effectively the fourth operator, cell phone operator within South Africa. It will struggle to make profits, but Telkom has the infrastructure and they need to use that infrastructure more effectively. Yes, they took a big hit in Nigeria and they have to absorb that, but I think once all that is through the system and they offer a better service, then we could see profit growth.